This is Mr. Impact Wrestling himself, Moose, and you're listening to the Irish Whip.
Hookers? Hookers and Coke?
Hookers and Coke, man.
You're the only pro wrestler I know that wants to do this shit in the morning.
Yeti, you're a f***ing moron.
Put it this way, I think Sami Callihan might as well just change his name to Invader
I
1.
want to know why. Like, he can dodge any question. Like, I'll tell anyone that. You can tell me but I'm going to ask specific questions.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
WrestlingNewsSource.com. All the rest of you yahoos are out there dilly-dillying you little wankers. We're actually receiving real wrestling news.
This is
Brett screwed Brett.
Who are you to doubt El Dandy? Because this guy's a serious professional.
Brett screwed Brett.
Hold 2! Arm bar!
Hey, get a nice shot of the brand new Mr. and Mrs. Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
I hate you. I hate you. I hate your hat. I hate your t-shirts. I hate your wristbands. I hate your shoes. I hate your music. I hate the C Nation. I hate everything that you stand for.
Sodas rule.
Yeah, they do.
Hey, TIW Mafia, it's the Yeti, it's JP. We are here with the current Defy champ, the Weirdo Hero, Calgary, Canada native, Mr. Randy Myers. How are you, sir?
I'm spectacular, darlings. I'm spectacular. How are you two?
Good, man. I'm just, dude, I'm super, like, there's interviews during our careers, like, we, like, look back on, like, Finn Balor was one, Lance Archer is one. I mean, a lot of these guys, and this is one, like, I've been wanting to do for a while, but I wanted it to be right, I guess.
Well, thank you so much. It's really an honor to be put into the category with names like that.
How I'm just gonna start out, man. How did you come about? I mean, I know you've been doing this for about a decade, and I know it's the minute you decided that you wanted to do this is all you wanted to do, and you're a Defy champ, man. How does this all feel, and is it real to you right now?
It's finally kind of sunk in. It took a while for sure to sink in. That win at Defy was, very huge, biggest win of my career. And it took like a while for all those, like, for the buzzing to stop. And I mean, the butterflies are still barking away in my belly, but it's still real. It's felt real now for a little while.
Is that sort of like a bucket list for you winning that title? Because I know in the North, like I'm in the Northeast where, I mean, I have companies that run Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I know in the Northwest it's really different, and Defy is like one of the bigger companies, if not the biggest company in that area. Is that like a bucket list winning that title for you?
Oh, for sure. Out of all the promotions I've worked for in the last 20 years of wrestling, it's the one that feels the most like home, and the one that I would call the most family, and the promotion that I've grown the most in as well.
I think we've had a few people on that have said that same thing.
We continue to hear how much that people grow when they're out here. And the other part too is, man, is how difficult. I mean, as far as bookings, like, how difficult is it out here on the West?
Oh, for sure. Like, there's no way I'm getting a Wednesday gig. That's why I do like all sorts of other kinds of entertainment, is like so I can keep myself fresh and performing all throughout the week. Because I'll do some improv jams, or I'll do like some stand-up comedy or some sketch comedy. I've kind of like tried to stick my fingers into all sorts of the entertainment venues that I enjoy, because again, no one's coming out on a Wednesday or a Tuesday night in the Pacific Northwest to see wrestling, unfortunately.
We got to change that.
Agreed.
Not that you don't need more companies out there. I think like in the Northeast, there's probably literally 50 to 75 companies, but 6 good ones.
Yeah, exactly.
6 reputable. And I think if you can get that in any area, the 6 reputable, I think you're in good shape.
That sounds like the partners I've had, 75, but 6 reputable ones.
Now, do you get out of the Northwest at all?
I have somewhat. Yeah, I've done a tour of the UK. I've been over there, and I've been to New Jersey, and I've been to Hawaii, and yeah, that's about it. I haven't been to the Northeast too much, though.
Okay.
My way around a little
Jersey
bit.
was a hotbed for a long time.
Yeah, no, I remember there was a lot of people coming from Calgary. Like Teddy Hart would go to Jersey All Pro for a long time, and he was always he'd bring some people from Calgary out there as well, and there was always talk about how great it was going out there, and he'd bring back the tapes and stuff like that, and we'd all watch.
Teddy is the ultimate bad boy all the time.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like that's not a yeah. He literally I think he does live the gimmick.
Yeah,
hey,
no, for sure.
Speaking of, I don't want to use the word gimmick. I don't want to use that with you.
Okay, yeah, please. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's not. It's you, legit, 100%. And if people haven't watched your entrance, your music, Ed James, correct? Is that right?
That is correct.
Really?
JP, you probably haven't watched this, but I'm telling you, there are certain fans. And this is legit. In Washington Hall, everybody wants a kiss from Randy Myers. Am I wrong, Randy?
Well, I don't know if it's everybody. I've had, I think, one refusal, which I completely understand because they are filled with consent. And if you don't want them, you don't get them. But yeah, no, there's a good percentage that want a good smooch.
They want a piece of the Randy.
Yes, indeed. Everybody gets a little Randy sometimes.
Now, a couple of years ago, you produced and directed a movie, right?
Well, yeah, it was. I was involved in the writing process and stuff. We had other people kind of doing the directing, but I would say, yeah, I helped produce for sure.
And that was based on your life, The Weirdo Hero.
Yeah, The Weirdo Hero is a YouTube web series that's loosely based on my life and experiences. It's not directly, so that's why we changed the character's name to Fabulous Frankie rather than Ravenous Randy, just to make sure that there was some. Just a way you could tell the difference between where fiction starts and reality begins.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, yeah, no, it's pretty much my story of dealing with depression. In that story, I have a wife, and I don't have no wife. I have a steady job. I don't have a steady job in real life either. So there were some things in that movie that are exaggerated because they thought that my real life was too cartoony to put in that situation. So they added some realism to my real life, which is weird.
Now, you mentioned, you talk about how the web series was about, dealing with depression and stuff, but yet you're a stand-up comedian. You do all kinds of comedy skits and stuff. Is that how you deal? Is that how you cope?
Well, for sure. Yeah. Entertainment is a big part and performing is a big part of my therapy. It helps me kind of just connect with people and let them know how I'm feeling. And instead of, kind of honing it through and filtering it through in art makes it easier to stomach and definitely makes me able to survive.
I want to bring this back up a little, but I want to, I don't know if you're familiar with Wheeler Yuta at all.
No.
But Wheeler does, he wrestles up here. I think he's from Philly, but he wrestles up in Boston a lot. And he does a lot with suicide awareness and stuff with his pro wrestling. He'll donate money all the time. And he has I forget the name of his foundation. You might remember it, Josh. But he just does a lot with that type of thing.
Chicago. Hope. It's the Hope, I think?
Yes, the Hope Project.
Foundation. Yeah, Hope Project. Cool.
So, I just think it's really important for people to recognize that not everybody who's smiling is happy.
Well, JP, let's just touch on it, JP, because that's the biggest thing is his T-shirts and marketing. Your anxiety lies to you. Is that's where you're at, right, Randy? I mean, that's where you're at.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's that's one of the statements I wear on my back and the T-shirts I sell. It's I tell you that your anxiety is lying, and yeah, I think it's important to tell people your true story and to not always just be smiling and to tell people kind of what's behind that smile. That when we're performing in front of a crowd, that's when we're at our best, and that's when we're getting everything we wanted or living our dream. So of course we're going to be smiling then, but sometimes when we're trying to make the bills paid or having a hard time in life, it's not so easy to smile.
How much does you touch on it however you want, but how much does your character and sexuality play in that anxiety, and is that the source and basis of this?
That's a good question. I wouldn't say that's true. I would say that my anxiety comes from other places and my sexuality, it's just kind of two things that kind of come to a head within me. But I wouldn't say that they really one pairs off the other. I mean, during my high school days, it was really hard being teased and picked on for being different and stuff like that. but that's something that kind of made me a stronger performer and individual. So I would say, now the anxiety and the sexuality thing, they hang out in the same room, but they're two different people.
So it's two different. I mean, when you talk about that, especially, I mean, in 2020, your character, I mean, it is the weirdo hero, and sexuality it's a big thing. I mean, we just had Mark Haggerty a couple weeks ago. Yeah. For us, it's always the question of like, when did you know, and was it easy? I mean, it sounds like it was difficult.
Oh, for sure. So from a young age, the backstory basically is that I was raised by my single mother as well as her friends, who are a group of gay males. So I was always raised around flamboyant men and men who felt that they had some shame because of their sexuality, because of the era we were living in at the time. So I was always open to be free about how I felt. And because there was no real barrier on sexuality, it let me grow up in a way where just if I found them attractive, I found them attractive. And that didn't really have to do with the sexuality or their preferred gender at the time. It has to do with what comes from inside. And I know that sounds really cheesy, but I'm inspired by people who are different. I'm inspired by people who are unique, and I'm also attracted to that. So that isn't necessarily just labeled to one gender.
No, that's all, and that's the reason we ask, is because that is 100% of what you are in and out of the ring.
Well,
right?
That's what I try and bring. I try and bring the wrestler that I would have liked to have seen in my youth. And when I was growing up, there wasn't people who were talking about, like we were saying, mental health, or talking about being open about their sexuality. And if you played an effeminate character, you were always the bad guy. And if you had any sort of mental health issues, you were also always going to be the bad guy. And the heart behind the weirdo hero is that I want to show that being weird, you can still be the hero, or being different. Yeah.
Absolutely. You talk a little bit about, grow up in Calgary, Heart Foundation. I mean, I've got ties to that here in Montana, just because a lot of the Heart Boys were born here in Montana and Great Falls specifically.
Totally. Yeah.
But like BJ's Gym up there in Calgary, like what was that like as a kid growing up? And, what as far as training, all in one.
Oh, so I grew up going to punk shows right across the street from BJ's Gym. So I kind of knew of it and had known that wrestlers trained there and kind of always looked at it with admiration. And then when I got to be 18 years old, I saw a commercial for Teddy Hart's pro wrestling camp advertised on TV. And it was during the Stampede wrestling commercial breaks.
Yeah.
And then I was like, it had the British Bulldog in the commercial, and it was just advertising BJ's Gym. So I knew that was I knew BJ's, and I went down there and I signed up for the camp, and training was wild. It was, for the first moment I walked in, it was people doing the most ridiculous backflips, and I remember seeing a 630 5 days into training, and they were just inventing moves left, right, and center. All these moves that are became mainstay today were kind of invented in BJ's and through Teddy Hart and Jack Evans from the Heavens and TJ Wilson and Natalia and Davey Boy Smith Jr. And there were so many great people that were already so advanced in their athleticism that when I came in as a drama geek who had spent all my time being artsy and had not taken gym class, I decided to opt out of gym class and write essays on sports instead. So I was not athletic at all. So going in there and seeing all these people do these crazy moves, I was like, oh, I've got some catching up to do.
No. Is that where you stayed? Did you stay with Teddy Hart as your trainer?
Well, yeah. So Teddy was, it was his pro wrestling camp, and he was taking bookings all over the place. He wasn't around as much as Tyson Kidd, TJ Wilson did a lot of the training, and Davey Boy Smith Jr. beat the crap out of me left, right, and center all the time. So that's how I learned how to bump, was taking suplexes from him. So yeah, and that's basically where I was at that point. And then once I turned of age, then I was able to go to the Heart Dungeon, and then I did finished my training there, or continued my training there.
I grew up in Boston. I'm in Boston still.
Okay.
And I knew as a kid I was going to be big. I'm 6'8" now. I was 6'5" at 13.
Wow.
And I knew of Killer Kowalski School, but I didn't know how to get in touch with it, so I never did, and I regret that. because I only knew about 2 wrestling schools in my teenage years, and it was Stu Hart's Dungeon and Kowalski School.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And that's so that's it's got a ton of lineage behind it. That's what was it like? How intimidating? Because like all of my friends, because now I'm around wrestling, and a lot of my friends did train at Kowalski's, and they all talk about how intimidating it was walking in there. How intimidating was it walking into Stu Hart's Dungeon?
Oh, it was, yeah. Just like you were saying, everyone was like everyone was huge. Except for like the people that I was training with at BJ's gym, everyone was like there were these men. I was used to training with boys, and all of a sudden I walk in there and there's these big former professional football players, and there's Bruce and there's Ross and Stu's upstairs in the kitchen, and it's just full of these beefy wrestlers, and I was a scrawny little toothpick of a young little spry kid. So going in there, I was totally intimidated. Like,
were you one of the screams that the people talk about hearing upstairs?
Oh, I think if you like put your ear to the wind in the right day in Calgary, you can hear everyone scream.
No, I just met Davey Boy about a month ago. He did a show up here, and he's not a small guy.
No, he's always been huge too. Like, I met him when he was 14, and he was like way bigger than me then, and I've always been trying to catch up to him.
That's like I said, I'm 6'7", 6'8" right now, right in between the two, and he's got to be 6'5", 6'6", easy.
For sure, totally. I'd say 6'6".
I was trying to figure out how JP can keep his head up. He's got strong.
It's tough, muscles. Man. It's tough. My head is huge too.
Did you do a lot of bridging?
I have to, because it's the first thing that hits the ground. Oh, man. How long did you spend at the dungeon?
I was there from 2002 till its closure, which was in 2006 or 4? No, 2004.
Okay. Now that's got to like, when people ask you, when you go to a promoter and say, hey, I need a book, I'd like to get a booking, and they ask where you trained, and you say at the dungeon, like they doubt you?
I have had that happen, actually. I've had people tell me that, like, that they just didn't believe me, or have me do drills and then be like, oh, you didn't learn this in the dungeon. I don't believe that you were ever there. And it was, I've had people, question that for sure. But then I think it's normally after they watch me wrestle that they can kind of see little reflections that kind of show, okay, that looks dungeon-esque, or there's a certain Calgary style that I work under.
Now, were you still up? Are you in the Northwest now, or are you up in Canada still?
Yeah, I'm in Canada. I'm in Vancouver now.
How much work do you get? How much work are you doing up there?
Things were picking up pretty good before this all went down. There was a couple new promotions within Vancouver proper that were kind of doing things slightly differently, that were gaining some momentum, as well as Elite Canadian Championship Wrestling has been running up here for a long time. All-Star Wrestling's been up here for a long time. So there is a handful of promotions that were doing great. So
and I think in about a month or so, I'm hoping that everything will be back to normal.
Oh, that'd be lovely.
It's different. I was just watching SmackDown before this because it's different watching it.
Yeah, I know for sure.
Even the TV product now.
Yeah. It's nice to see people still it's nice to see people still being able to do what they love, but it is so different to see it in front of like nobody.
Yeah. I tell you, I'll support those guys more now than I did before. I didn't watch the TV product a lot before, and I watch it. I find myself watching it more now because they're not doing it for any reason other than to entertain people.
Yeah, and it shows their like love and That's one thing that you can like. I have ups and downs with watching the product as well, but there's one thing I can never give them or like never take away is how committed they are. They're always on the road. They're always like that's a busy schedule, and in between that, they're like going to talk to kids and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, they wrestle 300 days a year, and there's only 65 days left, and they still do the Make-A-Wish and everything else. So
totally, and then working out and like just eating right and all that. Right. That commitment's just wild.
Now, what do you have for goals in wrestling?
Goals in wrestling. You know what? They change all the time. I used to have goals of doing like the big, like to be in WWE. That was when I was young, the main goal. But now as things kind of like progress and I've grown as an artist and independent wrestling has taken on its own life, that you can kind of make a career outside of it. I've always leaned more towards things that were punk rock or kind of on the outskirts or fringe kind of. So it feels more at home for me to be doing kind of outside of the mainstream type of entertainment. But I'd love to get a chance at AEW. I'd love to get a chance to be able to broadcast my message on a larger platform. And so that's basically my goal, is to have as many people kind of hear my message as humanly possible and bring joy to others and make others feel less alone. So I want that to be loud and proud and broadcasted off a roof.
Yeah, but you said it now. Like there are people now between like selling T-shirts, pro wrestling tees, and stuff like that, and just that people are able to make a living. Well, up until now, make a living off of independent wrestling now, and it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that 5 years ago.
Totally, I've seen that change. Like I said, I've been wrestling since 2000, or like I had my first match in 2001. So I've totally seen a change in wrestling, especially in the last 5 years. And there is a way. There is people that can make money, like whether it be Colt Cabana or whether it be your Joey Ryan or all sorts of people just kind of have found a way to really profit as an independent artist. And it's great.
Right.
He fits. Yeah. Like I'm telling you this right now. Like I have a one-of-one Rhea Ripley, and I sent a message to Dave Cole. I don't know if you know who that is or not.
Yeah.
Okay, so I told him, I said, I want a Randy Myers, so he's trying to figure that out right now. I'm going to have myself a one-of-one Funko Pop Randy Myers.
My goodness, that would be amazing. I'd love to see that. For sure, post that up.
Dave does incredible work. He was a wrestler from this area that moved out west a couple of years ago. And he does some awesome, his Funko Pops are incredible.
Oh, they really are. I've seen some of them, and yeah, I've been drooling.
JP, let's take a break real quick, and then when we come back with the Defy champ, Randy Myers, I want to talk a little bit about Washington Hall, the Defy crowd, and then a little bit more about anxiety, him as a person, and just the weirdo hero, man. So we'll be right back.
I'm glad I have you to stop me.
I know, dude. Just shut up.
I need a governor on me talking too. Don't worry about it.
No, we've been doing this for so long. It's like I text him, and then he still looks at the text and he ignores me. So then I have to jump in and just shut up.
Did you text me?
Yeah, I texted.
But we have the Skype video going between the two of us too, so we can do little hand signals to each other to give the Iggy.
Give each other the Iggy, yeah.
All right.
The cool thing about this, Randy, is like I'm out here because I live in Montana and JP lives in Boston. We've been doing this for a decade. We've never met. We've always done this through Skype. Like we've never personally met. So it's really cool. Yeah. It's one of those things. Like it went from dial-up internet podcasting to this, where it's just really fun, man. And it's dude, it's really a joy, and it's fun talking to. And I can't believe you train. I know. Like the dungeon, it just all this stuff brings back. Like I can remember driving from Helena, Montana, all the way up to Calgary for my first professional wrestling event because that's the closest I could get, and I had to go through the border. And it was midnight, man. This was before 9/11, before all this, and there was nobody at the border. There was nobody there, and I was like, "It's the first time I'm crossing the border. I've never done it before. It's never happened. I'm a young kid. I'm probably 24, 25 years old." And I'm super jacked because I'm getting up there, and I'm like, well, shit, maybe I'm supposed to just pull forward and park. Maybe that's what I'm supposed to do. I don't know. So I pull forward and park, and all of a sudden the sirens start going off. Next thing I know, I'm getting pulled out of my car, put on the ground because I'm jumping across the border.
Oh, my God. Just trying to come see some wrestling.
That's all I wanted to do, man. Come drink some of that Canadian beer and watch some pro wrestling.
Well, I'm leaving all this in.
Good story.
JP, do you want to bring us back from this fake break, or what do you want to do?
Yeah. All right, guys. So we've been back from the break, but just want to remind you who we are. JP, Josh is the one that's like the illegal alien now, I guess. And we got Ravenous Randy with us.
Hello.
Defy champion.
Defy champ. Where can people find you on social media, Mr. Defy champ?
You can find me at The Weirdo Hero on Instagram, Ravenous or Randy Myers on Facebook, and Ravenous Randy at Twitter, at Ravenous Randy.
How much, dude? How cool is it for you to perform in Washington Hall? How hot is that arena?
It's the hottest. Those fans are incredible. What they built there is like such a unique experience. It feels like a mosh pit at a punk show if everyone was sitting down, but not quite sitting down.
Right.
It's the atmosphere is like incredible. It's like Jiffy Pop. It's like the roof you expect to pop off at any moment.
Now, do you think that's the hall, the fans, or the product that's being put in there? Or somewhere a mix of the group?
I think it's a combination of the three, my man. I think I don't know whether like we could have that hot a crowd without that building, or if we'd have that hot a crowd without that product. It's a combination of everyone. It's made up of the fans. Like I've heard it from lots of the wrestlers who've been working for a long time. Tommy Dreamer said it reminded him of the ECW arena back in the day.
I knew it. God damn, I was waiting for somebody to say it, JP. Yeah. I was waiting for somebody to say that.
Yeah, that's what. He said that the difference was there was a lot of extreme aggression in the old ECW arena. As much as there was that sense of unity and family, there's also that sense of aggression. And in this case, there's a sense of like outreaching love and support.
Well, I've said this up here, and every product up here, or 90% of them, and I've said this to promoters, they try to be what ECW was. And the few that accomplish that are the ones who didn't try to do that.
That makes perfect sense to me.
You know, and Beyond Wrestling up here, I don't know if you've heard of Beyond.
Yeah.
They've managed to do that. And I've said that to Drew, like, you didn't want to be ECW, or at least it doesn't seem like you did. But the way you connect with the fans, your product has become that. And he's putting on wrestling shows. He went from having literally no fans to selling out every week.
1.5 million YouTube subscribers.
Yeah, the second most, only behind WWE.
Incredible. No, well, it's like you can't be the next great punk band if you're trying to copy the last great punk band.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense. You've got to try and create something new, and then, be the next generation of that. Be inspired by that and move that ball forward.
Now, do you do punk music?
No, that's one of the things I never have, no.
Just a fan.
Lyrics, but that's the one thing.
Okay.
What about you?
No, I have no musical talent whatsoever.
Yeah,
I enjoy it.
He can't even. He can't keep a beat. This dude can't dance. I bet you can't dance. You're a wallflower, aren't you?
I am, absolutely. I go to metal shows now, and I get a pretty bad back, so I actually sit down at metal shows. I'm that guy.
Fair. I think at 6'8", you dancing might be a liability anyways.
I've done my mosh pits.
I'm sure they would just clear house around you.
It's happened. It's happened. But it's a different environment. I'm 45. It's different for me now. Like, I go and actually appreciate the music than the environment.
No, I know exactly the feeling. I'm even getting that feeling where I'm 37 and I'm walking away from the mosh pit at times. I'll go in there, but I'm still walking away at times to just enjoy the music as well.
How much do you give back in ways that I guess some people also do, but you're personal trainer, is that right?
That's true. Yes, I am.
And you do this for kids, and also, you got like an after-school care program with kids. Is that right?
I was working at an after-school program with kids for a while there. Now I've been out of work with them for a while, but yeah, I also do. I have some of my own personal clients that I take on, mostly like elderly people. I also work with additional needs people to kind of help them in the gym.
I think this guy has I think we can officially label Randy Myers with the biggest heart in professional wrestling.
Well, I don't know about that.
I think so. I think we should.
That's awesome.
I want to. It makes me. It's greedy. It's out of pure greed because it makes me feel good doing it. So why not do good deeds if it makes you feel good doing it, right?
But that's not greedy. That's the opposite of greedy.
I don't know. Yeah, you're right. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, don't worry. We'll tell you how good you are. You don't have to.
Cool.
You can remain humble, and you genuinely are, and that's unbelievable. So,
I'm blushing.
What's your preferred form of entertainment to do? Is it the pro wrestling?
Yeah, it is. There's nothing like I can't find anything that fills that void.
Is it the adrenaline? Like, is it the crowd that you? I mean, the coolest thing, like when I watch you, and I know JP hasn't had the opportunity to, because I really surprised him with this, and we do this on a regular basis, where he's like, "What is this guy's name? What do you?" And then he goes and watches and does the research, and he's like, "God damn it! How come I didn't know this kid? Or how come I didn't know this guy? Or like, how come I didn't?" It's just because the product's so out there right now, but where you're at right now. And JP can manipulate this more because he's got the vernacular and fourth wall type stuff, where I don't, is the person that you are in the ring is the person that you are out of the ring, and you don't end up having the same kind of stuff like Sasha Banks has, where it's you're not that person in the ring that you are outside.
Yeah. I guess that's just wrestling for me is a place where, like, for years, this is a little thing I wrote, which for years I've looked for a place to, learned how to contain myself. And wrestling is a place where I don't need to explain myself. It's a place where I can be my truest form. I can be 100% me, where if I'm strutting and reaching out to kindness to strangers out on the street, I look like a maniac. But if I do it on the way to the ring, it's appreciated, and I can be 100% myself, 120% myself, and that's where it's accepted more than anywhere else. So, wrestling is that place where I've found I'm the most comfortable in that venue.
Do you get, and JP, how do I phrase this? When you come out, a lot of the stuff is not rehearsed, but you talked about earlier about your two dads that you grew up with and your mom. How much of the entrance that you do and the flamboyance that they portrayed when you were younger, how much of that is them?
A lot, for sure. It was mannerisms I didn't even know that I had. And that's what I got mostly teased on for when I was younger, was for just being flamboyant and effeminate in nature. But it was like kind of how I was raised. It was what I had seen around me. And so it just came a part of me, ingrained in me. So it just comes out even bigger than I realized it was in there sometimes. I see their mannerisms or things like that come out. And it's really nice. My mom's best friend, who was the main one who helped raise me, he passed away from AIDS when I was quite young. So to be able to tribute his life and the things that he was the most proud of, but was scared to show the world or scared to show in certain situations, and be able to go out there and wear them on my sleeve. And it means a lot. And yeah, that's where they come from for sure.
Are you, can you mention, is it okay if you mention his name? Are you okay with that? Would you?
Oh, his name was Craig.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's the biggest question I wanted to ask, is because I've always wondered, a lot of times, like even when the Hulkster comes in or like that, like you just come in different. You come in like you own the place, but like you've been there every time, and it's humility and flow and fun, and it's you. And I think that's what attracts so many people to you and why you are the Defy champ.
Well, thank you. I think I take that as such a compliment, and the more I have shown my true self to the world, the more I've been accepted, and that's just the best feeling you could possibly have. Is that validation of who you are.
And I think you probably, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but you probably at first maybe saw it as a disadvantage, but I think it's probably an advantage because, like Josh said, when Sasha took her time off a year or two ago, when she came back, she was like, listen, I haven't been able to be Mercedes since I've signed with the WWE. I've been Sasha, I'm a character in the ring, and I had to be the character out of the ring. You have the opportunity of being you in the ring and out of the ring.
Yeah, no, for sure. That makes it's so much easier, and it just makes things, like you were saying, like flow. Like Josh was saying, it makes things flow so much easier because I'm not reaching for anything. It's just right there. I'm getting it from within.
Now, do you turn it up a notch? They all say, it should be you times 10 or whatever.
Totally, but I think I turn it down everywhere else, and I'm the only I let it come to where it feels natural is in the ring. So I would say, I think I turn it down to 8 around everyone else, and then turn it back up to 10 when I'm in that ring.
That's fair. Has anybody? I mean, do you have anybody who you wanna like a bucket list of wrestlers?
Oh yeah, of course, and they keep there more and more keep coming around too. Like I'd love to do work with Effie. I'd really love to work with Gregory Irons. I'd love to work with I've been friends with Jeff Cobb for years, and I'd love to get in the ring with Jeff Cobb because I know that from the moment I saw him, he's an incredible athlete, and I want to test my athleticism against his. I'd love to have do some stuff with Davey Boy Smith Jr. Now that we have wrestled so much at the beginning of my career, and then since then we haven't locked horns in years and years, and I'd love to have that match. I'd love to work with people like Dustin Rhodes and Cody as well. People I'd love to be with Dr. Luther now that he's in AEW. He was my old tag team partner here in the Pacific Northwest, and I'd love to do some more stuff with him if possible. The list goes on and on.
That's like Effie, I think, is probably one of the more underrated people out there now.
Agreed.
But I think he's getting out there. I think his name's getting out there a lot more, at least I didn't know who he was a year ago, and I do now.
He's got great hustle.
Yes.
I want to see Orange Cassidy versus Randy Myers.
Good call. Thank you. Yes, that was missing the list 100%. I want to get my hands in those pockets so bad.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Yes, please. That's all I could think of. Like when you said that, JP, when you're like, who are your dream? I'm like, who do I want him to match up with? I'm like, Orange Cassidy.
Yeah, for sure. My mom wants that really badly too, actually.
I love watching his matches, and I'm not a big fan of the haha style.
Yeah.
I just think he does it so well and so different.
For sure, it's unique and it's original, and if everyone was doing it, it'd be terrible. But it's so great to see somebody doing something new.
Yeah, and nobody better rip that off.
Yeah, no.
It's gonna be though.
Someone's gonna try to. There's gonna be Fire Cassidy's gonna come out or something. There's gonna be something, and that person shouldn't get booked.
Yes, no, man. When I saw that match between Joey Janela and Orange Cassidy, where Joey Janela came out as, I forget what he was, but some sort of tangerine, I believe he was. It was incredible. So I'll let him slide.
Right, but that was also against Orange.
100%, exactly.
They just did. And those two, I think it was those two, just did a TikTok where they switched play. They showed Orange and Joey, and then they did they clapped hands and did the switch places, switch clothing and stuff, and it was pretty funny.
I should scratch that. I think Orange and Randy should be going for the tag belts here soon.
Ooh.
That's just me. If those two could tag, if you two could tag together, game over.
Oh no, for sure. I will bring all the energy that he lacks. I think that we're complete opposite ends of the spectrum that way. I'm 100% a firecracker 99.9% of the time, and he's, cool. 99.9% of the time.
He did commentary on AEW Wednesday night because the best friends were wrestling, and he was practically sleeping at the commentator booth.
Oh, cool. I gotta hear that. I missed the beginning of the show.
He literally was falling asleep on them. It was so awesome.
So good.
Randy, you grew up kind of you're a little bit younger than us. You probably caught the tail end of WCW,
yep.
A little bit of the WWE, ECW. Do you have do you have a guilty pleasure? Are there people that you watch on a regular basis? If they knew you watched them, they'd be like, "Oh my God, he watches me on a regular basis." Are there people that you are fans of?
Yeah, I don't even know if I Yeah, there's definitely lots of people that I'm fans of. I don't even really consider having any sort of guilty pleasure. I kind of, I think every one of my guilty pleasures is just another flavor in the soup. So I wear them with pride. But I did sleep with Road Dogg pillowcases up until like 2 years ago, let's say.
The Road Dogg, Jesse James, attaboy.
Yeah. He was, he was a big favorite of mine. Little Spike Dudley was always a big favorite of mine as well. I was a big Al Snow mark. So those would be, I know, some of the people that I was a big fan of. Mick Foley's my number one. Always has been and always will be.
Same with me. Like Mick Foley is I had tickets to WrestleMania 2000 because that was supposedly his last match against Triple H. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
But, my grandfather passed away, so every time I go and watch, like they didn't have seat fillers for my seats, so there's like 3 specific spots, and I know where they're at. Like I watch and I go, oh man, there's my 3 seats right there.
Wow, that's so interesting. And what kind of an interesting tribute to your grandfather too.
Yeah, it is. It's like those empty seats, and I get to be there. But Mick Foley was like King of the Ring '98 when he took that fall off the top of Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
I was sold from ECW, but when he did that, that guy was, I don't know. There's no switch with him.
Yeah, no, for sure. For me, it was that on top of those promos that he did with JR, where it was kind of blurring the lines between Mick Foley and Mankind and telling some like truthful stories from his past, but also like blurring the lines. That just seemed so real to me and vulnerable. And it was the first time I ever felt I saw a wrestler being vulnerable. And coming from that character that was so dark and disturbing and such a maniac, it felt like at home to me. It felt so comforting.
Guys, we'll take one more break and we'll come back and finish up?
No, because you didn't take a break last time.
That's fine. I'm writing down the time as I've written down all the time so far tonight.
There you go. Thank you.
Look at you producing, you fathead.
I literally have a notepad open with 3 times on it. When we started, the first break and the second break.
Tell Randy what our nickname is for the Irish Whip.
Oh, Technical Issues Weekly. Let me tell you, we started in 2005 and it fit for the first 13 years.
Oh, wow.
Like we could almost figure out what was going to go wrong before it went wrong.
Hey. That's better than the alternative.
Yes. Now, you said Mick Foley's your top guy. When you came into wrestling, did you want to be a hardcore guy?
Back now? I just want to make sure, JP, are we back now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been back. We didn't take a break.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But there was a commercial a few seconds ago.
What was it on? What was it about?
I have no idea.
It was a good one, though, because it paid the bills.
I'm buying 8. Mick. I did want to start out as a hardcore wrestler. There was definitely I had that desire, and then I did do quite my fair share of that kind of stuff. I've been in like Circle of Fear, barbed wire death matches, and every kind of weird gimmick match you could imagine that was like just prior, like before light tubes and stuff like that, like all sorts of casket matches and cage matches and ladders and all the ridiculous.
What would you say to an established wrestler who wants to do a death match?
An established wrestler?
Yes.
How long?
Somebody that's somewhat of a name on the indie scene, that wants to do a death match.
I mean,
would you recommend it or not recommend it?
I'd say, like, if you want to do it, go for it.
You're supposed to agree with me.
Okay. No, don't do it.
Thank you. See that, Anthony?
Exactly the opposite. Go to CZW and Cage of Death or any of that. Do it all.
Are you familiar with Retro Anthony Green?
No, I'm not.
So he's a local guy here. He's done some he hasn't been to the Northwest. I don't know if he's done Canada. He just got back from WXW. Like, he's been around.
Yeah.
And he's does his own shows now. And he's definitely the name on his shows. Like, he's the recognizable person.
Okay.
And definitely the best wrestler on his show. So when a name comes in, it's like he'll ask people, like, who do I put this person against? And it's like, Anthony, you have to put that person against you because that's where you're going to get the best match out of it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So
It's a big sigh.
yeah, he has Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Leatherface number 3.
Okay.
Coming into his next show, and he's having a death match with a death match wrestler. And I just don't. I texted him today. I'm like, can I forbid you from doing this because I've known you for so long? He told me I couldn't. Anthony, just be careful, man.
Yeah, no, that's just it. Just be careful. Know your limitations. Don't do anything tonight that makes it so you can't do what you want to do tomorrow. Obviously, like lay out your risk to reward ratio and then find out if it's worth it. I mean, you want to wrestle again, and we want to see you wrestle again. And JP wants to see you wrestle again.
Yes.
So, for the love of your fans and for the love of wrestling, please be careful when you're in that ring with Leatherface. He's a scary man, and that's not his real face.
It's not. It's someone else's, right?
Exactly. You just know where that's been.
Now, what you've settled on sort of, I'll call it normal wrestling.
Oh, I don't know if I settled on. Yeah,
not quite normal, but regular wrestling matches, as far as not hardcore, not deathmatch. Is that your preferred style?
Yeah, it is. I prefer to, at this point, you were asking earlier about what my favorite form of entertainment is. And the one thing I really get out of doing any sort of comedy is walking off that stage and not being hurt, and entertaining for X amount of minutes and being completely safe and completely unbruised the whole time. So I don't really want to go in there and hurt myself or hurt other people particularly. I want to go in there and suspend disbelief, and I want to go in there and put on a show. But the idea of actually walking away beaten up is not entirely what I want. But that being said, I'm also come from the dungeon, which was hard hitting, and it was definitely not taking it easy on each other. So I'm used to big bumps, and I'm totally hit with being hit hard in the right places and stuff like that. So it's a line between ultra violence and secure stiffness.
Now, how do you feel? Because in my mind, this works along with being how stiff you are. How do you feel about the handshake?
Ooh, the handshake. Yeah, I don't want it to be completely I remember I was taught the limp handshake or the soft handshake before, like the dead fish, and showing it as a way of respect. But then I gave that to Stu Hart one day, and he squished my hand so freaking hard. He was older by the time I met him, obviously, but the one submissions he could do were involving your hand. So he just twisted me right up into a hand submission right then and there, and I realized I was never going to shake anyone else's hand that way again. So I go in with firm, like a good solid hug or a kiss. You don't want to go in there sloppy left.
Well,
you want to go and let them know that you're there, but not do any damage.
Do you feel that it's I know a lot of people now are kind of trying to get away from it. I think if it's someone who you've never wrestled before or someone who you've never met before, and I think you'll kind of understand this more than some people, and I can kind of say it without moving too much of the fourth wall, but it's a good form of communication.
Yeah, no, I hear exactly what you're saying. Definitely.
Stiffer you are, you better pick it up, right?
If it's somebody that you see every Saturday, and that person's not comfortable doing it, then I think that's fine too.
No, for sure. Yeah. No, I think that you can normally just read sense of person, and that comes from the handshake, that comes from the way they're interacting with you, their eye contact, and all those kind of things, how they're going to be in the ring a lot of the time. I'm rarely surprised at this point, unless it's somebody who's kind of new to the ring and doesn't know how hard they're hitting or something like that. But
now, how come Joey Ryan's not on your checklist?
Oh, because we've wrestled.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
How good was it for you?
So fun. The best. We've wrestled. We've been a tag team and had singles matches. So yeah, Yeah,
Pre or
early.
post, before or after the dick flip, though?
Oh no, I've definitely taken the dick flip. I've definitely. What happened was actually he was tied up in the ropes, and then I ended up getting dropped toe holded into the powerful penis, but little behold, that magic went into my face and all throughout my body and gave me the power of the penis, and from there I was able to hulk up and hit a comeback.
That is becoming a sound clip.
He said, "Little behold."
That is now. How do you feel on that style of wrestling? Like I consider that haha. You know.
Sure. I would. I like comedy wrestling. I've always been a fan. One of my favorite WrestleMania moments would be when Al Snow and Steve Blackman had the little person come out cheese, and they were playing the cucaracha on their butt cheeks. That's one of my favorite things ever. But I don't think if the whole show was like that, it would have been great at all. I like wrestling as a circus. I like all different forms of wrestling. And if it's all just one thing, I find it gets old pretty quick. But it's nice to see things like we were just saying, like an Orange Cassidy. But sometimes it's nice to see like hard-hitting matches as well from like a Killer Cross or something like that. You know, like there's all sorts of different performers, and I think it takes all to make the circus.
Yep.
I liked it until I saw Mae Young's tits.
Yeah, there you go. You know, that's like, that makes the life, right?
Funny story is Josh still has that freeze framed on one of his TVs at home.
I assumed it was on the background on his phone.
Yeah. She untucked them bastards for me.
No, but you're right. Like if you go into a pizza place and all they have is cheese pizza, you can't even get a slice of pepperoni in there.
Oh,
you're not even if you're in the mood for cheese pizza, you're gonna go somewhere else.
100%. I'm not Kevin McAllister. I don't want just a plain cheese pizza.
Right.
But that was one small delicious cheese pizza just for him.
It was just for him.
Was that the punchline, JP?
Huh?
Was that the punchline?
Well, that was when he got the pizza. He said, "This is one small cheese pizza just for me."
Oh, there it is.
Listen, you got to pay attention to your Christmas movies.
I know, man. I know.
Especially a classic.
I know. Remember, and then when he ruined his uncle's pizza, and he goes, "I can't say it right. I can't do it right. I can't do it right now. I can't because it's out of season. You ruined it."
Now, do you prefer stand-up or improv?
At this point, I prefer doing stand-up, but I like the working with people from improv as well. Like the idea of working together.
Do you do is it an improv team you're a part of or something?
Yeah. I've been part of a couple different improv teams. Right now, we're doing kind of a takeoff on Are You Afraid of the Dark, which was like a Canadian kids TV show about horror stories. So yeah, we're kind of doing a takeoff on that.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Super
That's
fun.
really cool.
See, I like improv. I like Impractical Jokers is probably my favorite TV show.
So good. So good.
And I love improv and having to think on your feet like that. And to me, that's pretty close to what you guys have to do in wrestling.
Exactly. Yeah. That's where I feel the combination of those two things really has helped me out. Like my improv training has definitely given me some chops as to think on my feet quickly.
Now, what came first? Was the wrestling? Did the wrestling come before all of that?
So basically, when I was young, I was, like I said, I was involved in theater. So there was always kind of I learned some improv skills when I was younger. And then when I turned 17, I was so in love with professional wrestling, they were starting to teach us pratfalls, and I refused to fall the way they wanted us to fall. So I started falling like Mike Mick Foley, like my hero, and I got swiftly kicked out of drama class. And then my mom said, "What are you going to do with your life now?" I said, "Wrestling or improv." I went and took improv classes, and everyone was 35 plus. And then I went to the wrestling school, BJ's gym, and everyone was 15 to 17. And I'm like, oh, wait, so I can wrestle from my age now till I'm in my 30s and then start doing improv then. And that's basically what I've done.
That's the improv. Just I've gone to a couple of improv shows. It just seems like they're having so much fun on stage.
Totally, yeah. And that's like you were saying, it is very similar to wrestling where you're you have to have trust in your partner on stage.
Right, and thinking on your own feet, making sure that you're up there trusting that they can think on theirs, and that what you have doesn't turn into a train wreck.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, because that can happen at any second.
Now, what's been your favorite match that you've been in so far in your career?
Jeez. There's been so many great ones and like from different aspects, but the one that meant the most to me was when I got to work with Mick Foley in a match in Edmonton for Prairie Wrestling Alliance. The promoter was Kurt Sorokin, and he brought Mick Foley in as my special guest enforcer, and we got to both lock in Mr. Sockos at the same time on my opponents.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, that was a beyond come true. Yeah.
Now, is there a match that you would sense if somebody said, show me 2 or 3 matches, or 1 or 2 matches that would show us who Ravenous Randy is?
I would suggest my latest matches, I would say me versus Jimmy Havoc from Defy, the first encounter, or me versus Joey Janela.
Okay.
Yeah, those would be the 2 I would say really give you a good sense of who I am as a character.
Janela is so, like, I saw him early on in his career.
Oh, I bet, because, yeah.
And, it's so good. He's come so far.
So he has some unique enigma about him.
He's busted his ass, literally. You know,
because he smokes Marlboro Reds.
But I mean, that's a kid who he thought he was going to be a hardcore guy for a while, and he still does that sometimes. But he can actually wrestle now.
For sure, and entertain with the best. Comedies. His ha-ha's good as well. So I mean, he could hang with the best of them for sure.
He was the one. He went off the roof.
Yeah, sick bastard.
Right. But
that was
so when he
saw, like, I was watching. I'd seen like very little of his work before we wrestled, and then I kept getting sent clips, and then that was when I kept getting sent. This is the person you're wrestling, and I'm like, sweet. So we're dying. That's how. And then when we met, I'm like, he's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Could we kiss?
That's when he started out. He was working for a company, Pro Wrestling Syndicate, and I used to go down and do security for them. And he was brand new. And they said to him, yeah, we got something for you. Throw in this pink bodysuit and this mask that has a star on it.
Jeez.
And if you remember from the old NES video game,
Nintendo
he was Starman.
Pro Wrestling, it was Starman.
Starman, yeah.
That was Joey. It had to be one of his first shots in wrestling.
Wow. It's funny, we have a pair of pink tights up here that we used to give to the greenhorns as well, or like the rookies to wear for their first matches too. So I wonder if that's just a thing.
That could very well be. Oh, you don't have tights? Here you go.
Yeah, here you go. We have the loner tights, like you'd get it when you forgot your swimsuit in elementary school. You'd get the loner bathing suit that had loner written across the ass.
I would be more, I don't know, I would be more hesitant to put them on because they were loner than because they were pink, though.
They wouldn't fit your big ass. Your cock and balls would be hanging out all over the place.
Yeah? Is that a problem?
Yeah. At your age, it is.
It's a family show. It's a family show. Come on.
I got to cut you off again. I've been over here for the last 5 minutes. Timber and I've been waving at you, like flipping you off.
Yeah, I've seen it.
She showed you her ass. She like flashed her boobs in the camera, like everything, and you just
got SmackDown. I'm watching SmackDown muted. Keeping me into the wrestling mode. Inspiring questions, but yeah, we got
everything you guys need.
Do you want to tell us where we can find you again? And
for sure. You can find me on Twitter at Ravenous Randy, or on Instagram at The Weirdo Hero, or on Facebook, Ravenous Randy. If you want to book me, it's theo.francon@gmail.com, and that's my real name.
I saw that today on your Twitter, and
we need to use that as the intro.
Now, I know there's no shows running currently, but what promotions do you call home? Where can people see you regularly once we're back up in normal?
Once we're back up in normal, you can catch me at every single Defy wrestling show. You can catch me at Elite Canadian Championship Wrestling up in Vancouver, as well as All-Star Wrestling up in Vancouver. You can catch me for POW Wrestling down in Eugene, Oregon. You can catch me with Glam Slam up in Vancouver, as well as Rickshaw Wrestling.
There you go, guys. Ravenous Randy Myers.
That's me, darlings.
Check him out. go and be in the crowd. You might get a kiss.
Yeah, check me out while I check you out.
It would be Josh's first kiss in a long time.
Consensual, of course.
That's not true. I just saw them kiss.
That's probably true. That's probably true.
Hey, Randy, thanks so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. If you need anything, just make sure you reach out, man.
For sure. Thank you both so much. It was really an honor meeting and getting to talk to you both.
Anytime you get anything to plug, just let us know.
You got it. Take care.
Thanks, guy.
Bye, darlings.